If you like this video, please click on the like button. Comment with the names of the movies you would like us to cover next. Click the subscribe button and press the bell icon to get notified of our latest creations. We cover 100 movies from around the world every day. To advertise with our channel, reach out to us. Our contact information is on our channel page. Now, let's move to the plot of this movie.
The movie begins with a clear disclaimer stating that it is a work of fiction. On the famed Pandyan king Ranadira Pandyan and a fictitious clan chief named Kothi from the Aina clan. Then the scene opens with an old bald man who is hurriedly walking in the woods with a 10-year-old boy. The old man narrates the story as the kid is interested to know about Ranadira Pandyan, the then Pandyan king, and his famed foe Kothi. The movie unfolds from the narration of the old man. Ranadira Pandyan is a renowned Pandyan king who ruled the present Tamil Nadu region, South India circa CE 670 to 710. He has successfully defeated many clans and kingdoms, such as the Cheras, Cholas, Pallavas, Kongas, and others, establishing himself as a supreme leader with a vast army and a vast kingdom. Because of his unbridled authority, many tribes and clans resent his rule. Uri, the dethroned and the defeated king of the Chola kingdom, along with his beaten Chola army and their alliances such as Pallavettarayas, has been hiding in a remote mountain forest waiting for an opportunity to strike the Pandyas. The Aina clan, just like Cholas, were driven to barren wilderness by the Pandyan king Ranadira Pandyan. Kothi, a young man from the Aina clan, secretly meets with Uri, the exile king of the Chola kingdom, in the woods. There, Kothi makes a vow to Uri, the Chola leader, that he will defeat the Pandyan king, Ranadira Pandyan, who is currently staying in a Chola fort, away from his Pandya kingdom's capital. Uri acknowledges Kothi's vow and agrees that if Kothi is successful in capturing the Chola fort and killing Ranadira Pandyan, he will bring his hidden Chola reinforcements to support Kothi in facing the large Pandyan army and their allies that might come for revenge for their king's death. Kothi trusts the Chola leader's vow and returns to his village, determined to fulfill his mission. Quote, "After a long journey, Kothi reaches his village and wrestles a duel with the alpha male of his village. Though eventually beaten in the wrestling, he impresses his tribesmen with his chivalry. He convinces them to fight against Ranadira Pandyan and asks them to wait for a right opportunity to attack the Ranadira Pandyan, who has earned the war name Kalan, the god of death. Kothi gathers lot of information about the Pandyan king Ranadiran. Kothi's spies soon tell him that the Pandyan king, along with a small troop of private guards of Greeks and local warriors, will visit a hill-top shrine in few days. Kothi decides that it is the perfect moment to assassinate the Pandyan king Ranadira Pandyan. So Kothi and his tribesmen meet a Pusarari clan's priest and perform ancient Tamil war rituals from dusk till dawn, offering animals and human sacrifice to the war goddess Kotravai. On the fixed day, Kothi launches an ambush attack on Ranadira Pandyan and his small private guards as they were en route to visit a hilltop shrine along a mountain path. However, the Greek and local guards of Ranadira Pandyan swiftly formed a formidable phalanx formation, a renowned Greek battle formation, to protect their king. Despite the sudden assault, Kothi's men were unable to break through the sturdy phalanx formation, and suffered heavy losses in the process. The Greek and local guards fought valiantly against the overwhelming numbers of Kothi's Aina clan warriors. However, as the battle prolonged, the Greeks realized that it would be challenging to maintain the phalanx formation for an extended period of time against Kothi and his determined forces. In a selfless act of sacrifice, some of the brave Greeks laid down their lives, allowing Ranadira Pandian and his close commanders to escape behind them to a nearby hill. Connected by a narrow walking bridge, Ranadira Pandian, mindful of the pursuing Aina clan warriors, destroyed the walking bridge to prevent his capture. The scene was filled with intense action as Ranadira Pandian and his loyal commanders made a daring escape, leaving behind a battlefield strewn with fallen warriors from both sides. The bravery and strategic skills displayed by Ranadira Pandian's personal Greek and local guards in protecting their king against overwhelming odds left a lasting impression on all who witnessed the fierce battle. As the Pandian king is driven to deep woods though unable to be assassinated, Kothi and his tribe's men march to the Chola fort and easily take the defense, massacring the surrendered Pandian soldiers who were few reserves stationed in the fort. In the fallen Chola fort, Kothi, who was until then a nameless refugee, an unknown forest dweller, and a tribal nomad, adorns himself as a king with Pandian's golden crown and sits on the throne as king of the fort city. He sends his messengers now to the hidden Chola king Uri to come with his reinforcements. But his messengers are ambushed and killed on the way by the Ranadira Pandian's guards in the woods. Quote, in that fort city, Kothi falls for a beautiful temple dancer, Devaradiyar, who was brought from another place to this fort by a royal court advisor, presumably of the Cholas, who brings many Devaradiyas with him. After the defense fell to Kothi, Kothi fires the minister, takes the temple dancer as his concubine, and impregnates her. Repulsive to Kothi at first, she eventually accepts Kothi as her Lord Kanan, whom she yearned for so long. Meanwhile, Ranadira Pandian could not summon his main army from his capital as it far and beyond his reach, and he is stuck in the treacherous mountains with only few of his trusted commanders. Still he takes an oath that he will slay Kothi in revenge and acknowledges him as a great warrior, as he did what great emperors couldn't even attempt. So he seeks the help of another hill tribe called Perimpali, led by a matriarch leader. She, in return, requests the Pandian to marry a young maiden from her tribe, as her tribe would carry the seed to the Pandian throne, which is considered as a great fame to the tribe. Ranadira Pandian agrees and marries a young maiden from the Perimpali tribe and impregnates her on their nuptial night, telling her that this consummation is merely for politics of men and not out of love for her. As the marriage is consummated, the Perimpali clan's matriarch leader gathers her tribe members, forms a large army, marches with the Pandian king to the Chola fort and lays siege to the fortress. Some battalion of Kothi's men tried to disrupt the Peruvirakili's armies but were utterly defeated and slaughtered. The Ranadira Pandian's men also constantly ambush the messengers of Kothi to Uri, the Chola leader. Hence, Uri has no knowledge of Kothi's initial success or the present scenario of Pandian's allies are now at the gates of the Chola fort and Kothi's desperate need of his aid. The sight of the multitude of Peruvirakili's army camped outside at the walls of the hill fort of Cholas makes some of Kothi's men mutiny against him. Kothi's trusted and experienced commanders tell him that it is impossible and pointless to face the colossal army of Perimpali's clan led by the furious Ranadira Pandian and that they wouldn't stand a chance when they attack the fort. Kothi realizes that Ranadira Pandian has trapped him. Hence having no other option, Kothi finally decides to face the Pandian king Ranadira Pandian in a duel. The purpose of the contest of the two men meant that one who died or surrendered would have his kingdom handed over to the winner without a war. And the fallen man, if dead, had the right to have a funeral with full honors. Ranadira Pandian accepts the duel challenge. Quote, after a night of dark and sinister rituals from Ranadiran camp, Ranadira Pandian and Kothi meet the next day for the duel. They agreed to the conditions laid out by the shaman and invoked the gods to witness their duel. The fight was brutal, with Kothi initially putting up a tough fight against the mighty Pandian king. However, as the battle wore on, Kothi began to tire and realized that he was no match for the prowess of Ranadira Pandian. Single quote, Kothi fought with all his strength, knowing that he is outmatched, still manages to make the Pandian king bleed. In return, Ranadira Pandian wounds Kothi fatally, and Kothi fell to the ground, bleeding profusely. Ranadira Pandian, towering over the fallen warrior, yelled at Kothi to kneel and submit. But Kothi, determined and defiant, refused to yield. In a final act of defiance, Kothi refused to kneel, and hallucinates his brief fortitude. Ranadira Pandian struck the final blow, slaying Kothi. Kothi's lifeless body lay on the ground, surrounded by a pool of blood. Invokes the respect from his friends as well his foes. Ranadira Pandian, in a display of respect for his fallen opponent's bravery, honored his funeral rites. Now, since his victory secured, Ranadira Pandian triumphantly entered the Chola fort city, where he was crowned once again and seated upon the throne. In an act of mercy, Kothi's tribesmen were spared but exiled from the kingdom. However, upon hearing the news of Kothi's death, the temple dancer, unable to bear the loss, commits suicide by drowning herself in the temple pond. Kothi's wife, who was pregnant at the time of his demise, gave birth to a male child, carrying on the legacy of his brave father. The fame of Kothi's brave stand against the mighty Ranadira Pandian and his heroic end spread across the land. The Cholas, who had been in hiding, learned of Kothi's fortitude, begins preparing their army anew. Meanwhile, the Chera warriors, who had been exiled to Arabia as slaves, returned to Tamil Nadu on Arab ships, ready to reclaim their lost glory. Quote, the movie scene now goes back to the opening scene of Kothi's trusted commander, an old bald man, narrating this tale of his king Kothi's bravery to a 10-year-old boy, who was none other than Kothi's now grown son. The movie ended with the poignant quote, "A brave man stood against authority," encapsulating the legacy of Kothi's unwavering fortitude and defiance against all odds. Single quote.